Hey guys, what's up? Phoenix here, and I'm back again in EFT, and today we're doing a VO. So, basically, this is footage that I've recorded over the last couple of days playing on Shoreline, which is something that I haven't done in quite some time. So, a month or so ago, I posted a video going over the reasons I disliked Shoreline, and those reasons are still valid, completely so. It runs like shit 90% of the time, and nobody ever comes on the map with any sort of gear. Now, that criticism, not so much, because I've seen more and more people running Shoreline with some decent loadouts. Although, there are more criticisms in the sense that it's way more squad focused than it is solo focused, and as a solo player, basically, going onto Shoreline and getting into PvP engagements on my own is I'm always going to die. Kind of the major issue there is there's no real way to win as a solo player on Shoreline. It's just too group focused, and that's just the way it is. And as bad as it is, and as much as it sucks, oh well. But I've been playing it more and more often, not because I like the map. It is kind of cool, but it runs like shit. And not because it's good for PvP, because it isn't. But I've been running it more and more because of rooms like this. 310, and as we go down, room 222. Now these rooms are absolutely amazing and phenomenal. 310 in the sense that you can get a hell of a lot of cash just hitting that room up. So you can get things like bronze lines spawn there commonly, bitcoins, gold chains, all of that fun stuff. So not only is it awesome for cash flow, but it's also really good in getting barter items like gold chains and bitcoins, because that is kind of your major trade item for fort armor, which is kind of, you know, it's your best armor in the game. It's your top tier armor. It's kind of the reason that a lot more people have been running it, is that the economy changes have resulted in more people being able to access it through barter systems. And that's a change that we're seeing more and more, especially with suppressors occurring just today. So suppressors were upped in their price quite substantially, but only like 10k or so. And while this doesn't really affect any high tier players like myself, or, you know, people who've been playing for quite some time because we've got cash, it really only screws over the newer players. Hopefully this is a change that we'll see last through the wipe and make suppressors one of those things that are harder to acquire and are more trade and loot oriented. And that's somewhere that I actually wouldn't mind seeing the game go, where you have to kind of scavenge for your loot a bit more. Now it'd be interesting to see how well that works in the sense that it's all raids and it's not open world, because open world is an environment where that would benefit a little more than you know, than the raid system they've got now. But that's all things to look at later down the line. My point is, the way the game is going in its current state, with the whole economy changes and the way that loot spawns, as you can see in that clip just before, I picked up an RSAS. So an RSAS actually managed to spawn in 222. And that's a change that occurred kind of with the last major update, that it spawns wherever M4s spawn, for example, or, you know, the VSS in that case. So high tier weapons and high tier attachments and barter items and all that being more common and more easily found, and that's something that happens a lot more on Shoreline than any other map, purely for the sake of 310 is amazing for finding these things. But even your safes, there's a lot more safes on Shoreline than there are on any other map. There's a lot more weapon crates and weapon cases and weapon boxes and all that fun stuff. So it's a lot easier to get all of this high-end loot from Shoreline. So while it doesn't play well, it is really good in terms of getting cash flow through this room, getting weapons through your cases and other rooms, and getting attachments through all those crates. So while in terms of gameplay, pretty shitty, in terms of the way the game is going on the basis of its economy, it is pretty good. Now that's not to say that you don't get into any engagements. In fact, in this clip, I think a little bit later on, I do actually manage to get into an engagement here. So it does, you know, it does happen. But at the end of the day, I'm starting to enjoy this map a lot more, not on the basis of it's good for engagements, but on the basis that it's amazing for getting loot. And that's something that is really good to see and really interesting. And hopefully, once they fix the, I guess, the performance issues, quote unquote, we'll see more people jumping on here, more people getting more loot, and taking it into other maps all around. So more people across the entire board will be running with better gear because of maps like Shoreline, where rarer, quote unquote, loot is much easier to get. That's a system that I'm really looking forward to, and hope that doesn't kind of get nerfed too much, because at the end of the day, nobody wants Tarkov to be like DayZ, where you're running around with hatchets, and everyone's running around with hatchets for fucking months on end because nobody can find a gun. That's just that's not enjoyable. At the end of the day, it really isn't. And I think there are a few people within the Tarkov community who kind of want that to be the way the game goes. You know, M4s and AKs are extremely hard to get. Hopefully nobody listens to them, because they're fucking idiots. But hey, anyway, like I said, the major reason that I've been enjoying the map a lot more recently is because it gives me a much easier approach to get things like fort armor. And considering I play a fair bit, and I play the way that I play relatively aggressively, I lose things a lot easier. So being able to jump in, grind for half an hour, and kind of regain my losses makes it a lot easier. But not only in terms of benefiting myself, but in terms of other people are doing this as well. I run into a lot of other people, mostly hatchlings, who are doing the exact same thing that I am in these clips. They're running through and they're picking up all this gear and they're getting out, or they're chucking it in their container and dying or whatever. And as much as people may dislike the fact that hatchlings are doing that, it allows people to gain more gear, gain better gear, gain a higher cash flow, and from there get gear to go into other raids with. So being able to stock up on Shoreline is benefiting maps across the board, and that's something that, especially with this last patch, I've noticed substantially more geared people across the board on all maps than there were post-patch, or pre-patch rather. So that's just something that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks or so, and I'm really intrigued with how the economy moves forward from this. And because the way it's going, it's really starting to just buff Shoreline, because the more trade-oriented it's getting, the more people are flocking to Shoreline to get those trade items, because it's the easiest map to do so. So anyway, guys, that was just my thoughts and my opinion on why I've started to like Shoreline and why it's become one of my favourite maps. Not necessarily for gameplay, just for acquiring loot. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, queries, doubtful points, or your own thoughts and opinions on the economy of the game, the loot system, where you want to see it to go in the future, along with Shoreline, do you guys play it for PvP, as a squad, as a solo player, or do you just jump in order to get some loot? Because there are, like I said, some pretty decent spots to acquire some loot. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys tomorrow.